Hey, so hello. Welcome to the first done with the day or done for the day. I wanted to try something and I'm going to give you a bit of a backstory. And right now, first of all, I have no idea if this is working. I don't know. This is supposed to be live streaming to both YouTube and Facebook. I'm using Crowdcast to do that, but we'll find out soon enough if this works or not. But I want to give a bit of a premise into why I'm doing this and why I want to have this discussion. And then I'll figure out how to get it interactively correct going forward. I want to even see if it's something that I've got a hypothesis and I want to understand that if there could be value there. So let me take you a little bit back. On the water cooler session we had with the team at Missing Link on Wednesday, we had a group of people. We were sitting there, we were chatting, and my team had started talking about some of the anxiety that we're feeling. Now, for many people that work in distributed workforces, this is pretty normalized for them. But for us, we've always been a company that's quite centered around our office and our community. And as me as a motorcyclist, one of the things that I've always loved is that moment where I get out, I put on my earphones, I get onto my motorbike and I ride home. And even if it's a 10, 15-minute ride, just that act of putting on my music, getting going and riding through that traffic, by the time I get home, my day is gone. In fact, like when I walk in, I don't want to turn around to Jazz and tell her about my day. It actually becomes a thing that we don't do. One of the questions we ask at dinner is, what is the highlight of your day? Or what is the most significant thing that happened in your day is actually more accurate. Because the most significant thing could be a good or a bad thing. I don't want to recap the day because I'm done. I'm home. And my context has shifted from being a employee or an employer or a colleague to being a father and a husband and all of those other things. Sup, Nick? Thanks, dude. Okay, well, at least I was streaming here. So that was the thing. And just that ride, just that getting in my vehicle or getting on my vehicle and riding home is enough for me. Right now, though, this has been problematic. If you're anything like me, you're probably working harder than you ever have before because the end of your day, you're still sitting there. There's no place to go. So you end up just staring at your computer screen and getting your work done and just carry on going and nothing is changing. And I think that's problematic. And it was certainly problematic for my team, not because of just that we're sitting at home, but because of how we communicate. And when we communicate, we're forever, we sit there and, we've got an SMS group, a WhatsApp group that we send out, we chat to everybody. And even though we have Slack and vehicles like that, what had happened over this period of time, we've ended up doing a bit more on WhatsApp. So the interruption is continuing into their evenings, which isn't ideal. And what they were saying to me is they feel an anxiety now because they don't know when they're allowed to get up from their computer and go away. And that's what I wanted to create here is what if we could create a virtual rush hour where maybe I invite some of my friends in and we come in and we literally chat for it. The whole thing must be 10 to 15 minutes maximum per day. And the only function that it serves is it's like your drive home radio station. That at the end of the day, you get used to the ritual that once this is done, you can close your machine and you can get up and you can go. Can we create a fictitious drive home? Can we create something that works and acts as a trigger to try and help you change your mindset and get home and be home when you're there? So that's what I'm attempting to do. And my plan is to maybe share one little bit of a learning about something, maybe one tip about or something that I do in my workflow to try and help me turn off for the day. And then maybe basically to close everything off. So I wanted to start off with telling you a bit of a story. And it was a story I actually shared on a video a few weeks ago in a LinkedIn article. And I read it and it was to do with ice hockey when I saw the video the first time. It was actually shared by the general manager of my favorite ice hockey team, the Toronto Maple Leafs. But it's amazing that although when he released it a few weeks before everything happened, it was referring to a loss a team had gone through. I can't tell you how relevant it is now. And it was by a philosopher who's now dead called Alan Watts. And Alan Watts tells a story of the Chinese farmer. It was a Chinese farmer who one day was working on his farm and he went out and he looked and one of his horses ran away. And his neighbors came in and said, well, that's too bad. And the farmer looked at them and said, well, maybe. And then, the next day, the horse came riding back in. But with the horse, it brought a bunch of wild horses. Another 10 horses came back in with the farmer's horse. And the neighbors came around and said, oh, my goodness, that's amazing. And the farmer looked at them and said, well, maybe. And the next day, the farmer's son was trying to tame these wild horses. And he was working with them and he got thrown off. And he fell down, he broke his legs. And the neighbors came in and looked at the farmer and said, oh, that's terrible news. And the farmer said, maybe. The day after that, the conscription officers arrived and they came knocking on the farmer's door. And they took one look at the son with the broken legs and they left him there because they didn't want to take him off as a soldier to war. And the neighbors came back in and said, that's incredible news. And the farmer said, well, maybe. And Alan Watts's mindset on this is that the universe is a tremendously complex place, and there's many, many things happening at any given time. And none of us can look at what we're in isolation and say whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. It's just the thing. And what we're dealing with right now maybe is probably the best reaction we can have. There's times when I'm extremely positive and there's times when I'm extremely nervous. And the reason that I exist in both of those places simultaneously is because the actual answer to all of this is maybe. Maybe this is a good thing, or maybe it's a disaster. Maybe it will be a disaster for some people, and it'll be a great thing for other people. And it's a great kind of mindset to have. And I would like to encourage you to maybe try and see how you can apply this to almost any event that's happening in this, especially in this period of time. Because I think there's opportunity in maybe. There's a chance in maybe that it can still work in your favor. And it's a good place to start. So that's the story. The next thing is the practice. To help you close your day. So I follow a productivity system called 1-3-5. And every single day I have one important thing, one big thing that I have to work on. I have 3 medium things that I have to work on. And I have 5 small things that I want to get through in the day. Of course, things get added to it and I have meetings and appointments and those are separate, but those are the kind of tasks. And what I found that is helpful, in the past I used to do those first thing in the morning. What I found is helpful right now is to do it the opposite. To turn around and say, what if I did my 1-3-5 as the last thing that I do every single day? So before I finish work, I sit there and I go through and I reassess my day and say, okay, what is the one big thing from a work point of view that I want to achieve tomorrow? What is the 3 medium things that I want to achieve tomorrow? And what are the 5 little things that I want to get through tomorrow? And just going through that ritual requires a whole bunch of reflection on what I've achieved in the day so far and what's going to be important for me to get through to the next day. And I found that once I've done that, once I've gone through that, then I can kind of feel, okay, in fact, I don't want to carry on because I start encroaching on the next day's work. And at that point, I feel like, okay, I'm over, I'm finished, and I can actually step up from my computer. And I guess that's a challenge, is that we've got to all try and figure out what are these new rituals that we can use to interrupt our day, much like I guess this conversation is hoping to be. So that's it for me. That's the first episode. It's 7 minutes 23. I want to now give you full permission to be away from your computer, to close your laptop, to go and hug somebody that is near you, or to message somebody who's not, and actually just go from being an employee or a staff member or an entrepreneur, whatever you want to call yourself, to being somebody who's at home. And let's just virtually imagine that we've just finished our drive, that we've just come here, and I want to welcome you home. Go close your laptop because you're done for the day. Thanks, everybody. And let's see if this makes any sense and we can pick it up. We'll get it done in the future again. Cheers.